Today we have Duane on. I wanted to introduce Duane and make this recording available to everybody we can. Doug's going to do that with the resources he has. But let me introduce Duane to you all. Duane, I've known Duane for many years. We go back, we connected in the Secret Service and other organizations we were in. And Duane's very real with what he's presenting. He's a real person. That's why I've kept in contact with him all these years. Briefly, he was a general contractor for 40 years, a writer. He's 9 books out, image producer, public educational lecturer. He's a counselor, well-being, real-life counselor, a pro surfer, former pro surfer. And in the Secret Service, Duane did some interesting things. He was a remote viewer, out-of-the-body expert, time travel, stargates, Montauk mind control, MK Ultra, planet-to-planet relations, dream vision interpreter. And did I miss anything, Duane? Welcome. Maybe you can fill us in on what you're doing now and introduce yourself. Hi, Duane.
Yes, Val. Well, what I'm doing now is I'm down here in Mexico on this little ranch with you, and we're trying to keep the leaves off the ground, aren't we?
Yes, we have little burn piles all over, and composting too.
Yes, we do. So, there would be so much to go over, and I can add to this, but looking at different ways to start this. First of all, the movies are a very good indication of what's taking place here on the earth. And most people see the movies as entertainment. Well, that's not really the idea of the movies, but then again, yes, it is to the world controllers. And so some of the good movies that tell you a few more things besides the surface world are like The Matrix, as an example. And it starts off where Neo has his personal life. He's the hacker. He's doing certain things. He has his attitudes. But then little by little, he starts to meet into other situations, and eventually Morpheus, that gives him the option to see more than just the surface world. And so he's a risk taker. He takes that risk to do it. At first, it's kind of bothersome. He has to go through all these antics, and we all do this, to finally discover that, oh, there's more to be seen that's really not seen, etc. On the surface world. So, for the most part, we've all been raised and indoctrinated to be literal, especially in this so-called modern age. This is where we have the schools, the colleges, whatever. These are all created by the world controllers, but they're created and marketed to look really good. And so the more that you get your indoctrinations, the more degrees you get, etc., the so-called smarter you get, so you can become one of the know-it-alls like doctors, lawyers, scientists, whatever. And you're really buried in all this knowledge that they want you to have because it keeps you confused here on this surface world. And there are always things that seem to pop up that are, create confrontations, just like what we're going through now with the whole virus thing that was created and planned over 50, 60 years ago. When I was in the Secret Service, I was told this, and it's in some of the older movies. There's a movie with Burt Lancaster, an old one, called Executive Action. I suggest you see these movies. It shows exactly what they're doing and what the setup is. All the systems that have been created here, political, religious, scientific, educational, technology, it's all been created by the world controllers. And this is very real. And anyone can learn to see this and prove it to themselves. I came into this life because I had a real purpose from previous lifetimes into this lifetime here. And anyone can prove this to themselves also. Most people are not educated to the fact that they are operating 4 other bodies that they don't see. It's like you have 5 cars. You have your physical car, you have your physical body, but you also have 4 other bodies that you're not aware of because they don't tell you this. And these 4 other bodies are operated by your real awareness. And as you learn to become multidimensional, and that was a little step that Neo took as an example in the movie, it was shown there objectively, all of a sudden he starts to see more. So this is the idea. Yes, you have the surface world. It all comes down to this, but there's a whole lot more going on that you're not seeing. So the fronts that have been created here are purposely so to market people to think a certain way. Now, going into the idea of you have rights, okay, just imagine someone coming up to you and saying, you have rights. And I've written these rights down here on a piece of paper. And here they are. I've spelled them all out. I've 1 to 15 or whatever. You have rights. But actually, you already have the right to decide and choose without somebody telling you. But when somebody comes to you and prints those out in words, well, that's about control. And as soon as you agree that you have rights and that you agree to that doctrine, you've agreed to the system of control. And this is what people don't see. There are ways to do things that make more sense, but then again, it's been set up to where, yes, people do have a right to redress their grievances. That was all written in their purpose, to actually activate protesting and riots, because the world controllers like people to protest. They really do. And they like you to find out what they're doing. That's a fun time for them. This is a big monopoly game to them, the business world, etc. They've set it all up. Look at life 300 years ago with the indigenous Indians. Did they do this? Did the birds tell each other they have rights? Did the Indians tell each other they had rights? It was all from the controllers and the bankers, etc. And the main culprits are the monarchy and the Vatican. There's your political and there's your religious control. And the United States was set up as a front country. That's very real. That's Washington, D.C. Now, anyone can learn to see this for themselves. I've taught people for over 50 years how to do this, and it's not hard. Taught Val and others, etc. And Val's background has helped. But the idea is that as you learn to become multidimensional, not just surface world literalized, because your thinking is along the lines of what they want you to think and see, because they don't do that. And just like in a lawyer's contract that you can't understand, that's how they do things. They scramble things. So to understand, as an example, the monetary system, the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, as an example, Jekyll Island and all that took place. You don't need 3 years of economics in a college. You can learn in 10 minutes about what's going on. They simply took over the system, which they already had realistically, but they went through the steps to make people think that this is how it is to be done. They create all these steps and all this marketing ploy, etc., to do this. And so they get people to literally agree. The bigger picture is that they don't care what you know, because they have you subliminally tapped line in your other bodies that you're not aware of. And you can start to see these tap lines once you learn how to become multidimensional. But otherwise, just like Neo in the Matrix, that's what he went through when he took one of the so-called pills. And you don't have to take pills. You don't have to do that because you have your awareness. All of a sudden, he was all unplugged. And he went through his process, etc., to finally wake up with Morpheus and all and them. Now, what is taking place in that movie as an example is physical, astral. You have 5 basic levels to creation: physical, astral, causal, mental, etheric. And these correspond to your different bodies. The physical is your 5 senses. Astral body is emotion and sensations. That's the one you usually dream in at night because most people are attached to their emotional body. The third body is your causal body, which is memories. All your memories are stored there, Akashic records, some of them, etc. All the real records are in universal files, which that's really a toughie to get to. Then you have your mental body that does your thinking, and then you have your etheric body that's subconscious, and your intuition, which is the closest to your real awareness. And then you have a 6th level. I call it the deep dark border. This is what the creation bubble that you're in is made up of. And so everything here that in creation has been created accordingly. And those who have gotten control of this planet and other planets and galaxies, etc., well, they set up systems to get people to agree because they want your agreement constantly. And I could go into a whole lot more that's right in front of you all the time. But another movie, another good one, is with Kurt Russell, Stargate. It's showing you right there what's going on. Also, Devil's Advocate with Al Pacino. And it would seem as though that Al's the devil in that movie, but actually it's the opposite. But you got to learn to see it, learn to see through it. I suggest if you watch the movie, see them as documentaries and not just entertainment, because they own the movie industry and they're telling you what they're doing all the time right in front of you because they like to show off. And they like the game and they like to watch people torture, etc. So as you become more aware and multidimensional, you'll learn to get on top of the game, or you stay one-dimensional and just deal with the so-called facts and figures that they create to keep you confused here, because it will just be paper shuffling. That's why they created all this. And so look at the birds out there. They're not concerned. And they're very aware. They watch what people do. So what is taking place is not only right in front of you, but you actually have the opportunity to become more aware and see it for yourself. So you have a better position to deal with this world. Yeah, I don't like what's going on here either. Chemtrails, Wi-Fi, HARP, GMO food, etc. We got 5G, on and on and on. They make it more imprisoned because people are becoming more aware, but in little tiny steps. There's bigger steps. Also, I'm going to tell you this. The black holes that are occurring in the galaxies, they are no coincidence. That is unconscious deceptive agreement. And this creation bubble is imploding because of that. The unconscious deceptive agreement to deception is so huge. You see, you are in a consciousness bubble, and consciousness is not the true reality life is. It is simply creation. And until you become multidimensional and are able to objectively see beyond all of creation, then you are in cause and effect karmic creation, because it's set up like that. Cause and effect is actually a setup agitation to wake you up to your real awareness. That's what it's all about. And through your intuitive faculties, you gain insight to eventually recognize the real you that's operating the 5 bodies here. Now, this is pretty far out stuff for most people, but actually it all comes from that until you see the cause, etc. Just like in the movie The Matrix, until you see behind the scenes, you're just seeing the surface world and what they want you to see. And you've been literalized and you don't even realize it, to where you're thinking along the lines that they want you to think. And until you can be objective with that, again, the birds in the trees, are they considering what you do every day? No. And for the most part, we've all come here thinking that, oh, we'll set up our life and we'll have our la la land here. Well, guess what? This is a human farming planet. There's no la la land here. You're in the prison yard. Yeah, you can walk around freely, you can do what you want, think what you want. But there's guards on the wall and there's a warden, and that's very real. And the wardens of this planet are the Vatican and the monarchy and the front at Washington, D.C., and all the politicians. Because they're all bought off, because they're afraid not to agree. And the interesting thing is that these people are more afraid than you are, because they're just afraid that they can't get everything they want. So what they do is they use force, brutality, military, marketing ploys, etc. Everything you see on TV is a marketing ploy to get you to agree, to be confused and constantly distorted and not really know what's going on, and asking the question, gee, why are they doing this? This doesn't make sense. When it makes sense, it does. But when it doesn't make sense, that means that they've purposely done that to not make sense, to confuse you, to ask the question, why doesn't this make sense? See how you've been literalized? And until you can get aside from that, then you will just go through the same process, and you will set up your future lifetimes to be more unconscious and more robotized as you see the systems go. Look at the so-called history that you've known. And they constantly change history, constantly rewrite it. They've written all of history, everything that you know, from religion to politics to beliefs to ancient history. They've rewritten it all. And when something's discovered out there, they already planted it there, and they go get their experts out there to say, oh, look what we discovered, you see? And yeah, it's been there. It's been there. But there's a whole lot more to it. And again, until you become multidimensional, you're not going to see it. So the Matrix is a hint, and other things are a hint, etc. The Stargate movie and many, many other things. There's another movie called Dreamscape with Eddie Albert. That's a good one. That gives you a hint. What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams. That gives you a hint too. That's physical astral, and it shows how he was trapped. His wife was trapped in her unconsciousness because all she could see is the ideas that she carried with you. As long as you keep looking at the same ideas the same way, then it's all going to be the same. But once you learn to see through it, then you have more options to deal with what you are seeing and what you have to deal with. So it's a choice that each one of us makes, and it's all about agreement. So you already have your rights, but if you think that it's according to a piece of paper somewhere, then you're at the mercy of those that created that piece of paper and control you. And that's very real too. So there's another way to do things, but very few people will see how to do this, because again, they will go to their personal self. And it's like you go into your computer, asking your computer for the answer. Your mind only contains so much, but your real awareness has everything. So to recognize that and to be able to relate to that, you have so much more than can even be imagined that is available to you. And so there's the basic idea. And so from there, you decide your life. Each one of us decides their life. I decide what I do, etc. What I do is I show people how to be multidimensional so they can become self-sufficient unto themselves. And as they share it with others, well, there you go. People become aware, and all of a sudden, you know, it's like this. If everybody, you might say, stood up and stopped agreeing with the systems, no matter what they are, they wouldn't be working, would they? Did the Indians agree? They didn't agree. Again, did the birds agree to the system? No, they didn't agree to it. Only those that agree. And when you protest, and when you do all these things, etc., instead of present, you're agreeing to the system. You're actually reinforcing it, and they like that. You're upholding the system without realizing it, because you've been literalized to do so. That's how they've taught you. That's why they give you the degrees and the honors and the Nobel Prize and all these things. They want you to look at the foo-foo they've created to make you think that you're somebody special, when all of us are a whole lot more than that. And we've come through lifetimes to this point whether people believe it or not. Again, see, they've created those ideas, the idea of belief and all that. They've literalized you. All these things are literalized to the point. You look at the textbooks today, it's not about the natural environment so much. They've got geoengineering in there. Chemtrails are a good thing. GMO food is a good thing. It's in the textbooks. See, they change it all the time. Look at the internet, etc. Things are taken off all the time and replaced by the foo-foo stuff. Yeah, it's all prevalent. Everything is poisoned in the world. That's real. Everything you're eating. I'm surprised we're still here. Realistically, I am. Because every single thing is poisoned. They've poisoned everything. They've saturated, they've radiated, etc. The oceans are almost dead. There's a good series on Netflix, a good movie and documentary called Seaspiracy. It's very real. Fukushima's been on for over 10 years. That's all on purpose. Everything that's going on. Look at Australia right now. It's summertime in Australia, and guess what? They have 2-3 feet of snow, hail going through buildings and cars, etc. All geoengineering warfare, weather warfare. It's all very, very real. And it's only going to get worse. They're just doing it a step at a time. And they got more viruses coming. They got more stuff coming. And those people that stay one-dimensional, they will be at the mercy of all this. Yes, you deal with it. You do the best you can. I have to deal with it too. They affect me too. They know me. I know all of them. I know all the Vatican. I know all the monarchy. I know the Queen and all them, and a whole lot more, and aliens on other planets, etc. And this is what they do. This is their tradition to destroy. They are destroyers. Just like in the movie Independence Day, about the middle of the movie when the president's at Area 51, and he's talking to the alien through the glass, and he's saying, "Why are you here? What do you want?" And the alien steps up, and he simply says, "For you to die." It's right in your face. So here it is. You actually came here. You actually decided to come here to wake up, and it takes all this agitation to do so. And that's what you're really looking for, is how to wake up from this passing dream. But in the meantime, you've made it your reality, just like in the Matrix, just like the girl in the red dress. It seems so real. And it's not that it's not. It's its own reality, but it's not the true reality, and there's a whole lot more. But you have to decide to be the risk taker to see it. That's up to you. So that's what my books are about. That's what I present. Val and I came here to give people the opportunity to see more, etc. That's all. We're just presenting something. Our focus is the all-natural environment because it's being purposely destroyed. California and all these places where the fires are all over the world. Those are with DEW weapons, direct energy weapons. What they do is they spread the chemtrail dust, which is like sparklers, those little things you bought on 4th of July. And then they hit them with the lasers. United States Air Force, they hit them with the lasers and they burn the forests. That's where these fires explode, just like napalm bombs. Very real. And look at the houses. Look at the pictures of the houses that have been destroyed. You know, there's one really interesting one I saw last year, an aerial view of a bunch of houses. And there was one house among all these houses that was not destroyed. It sat there alone up in the Hollywood Hills or somewhere in California. And there were trees around, etc. Cars melted and whatever. Cars don't melt from fires. Houses don't just totally disintegrate. There's things left. There's one house left. And guess whose house that was? Anthony Hopkins. His house sat there all alone, where he had all these houses destroyed around him. They know what to target. And the movie industry, they ploy everybody. Those are all the pedophiles and etc. They drink the blood of children, etc., just like the monarchy does. It's all really sick stuff. This is why some people like Prince and others and ongoing, they die young, etc., because they get rid of them, because they find out what's going on and they start telling it, or they're shunned from Hollywood, etc. The movie industry is a prop. They own the movie industry. They decide what pictures go out there and what people see, because it's all mind control. Sorry, it's the earth. I didn't make it up. I'm just letting people know that there is a way to get through this. But if people want to just keep trying to chase their la la land here, doesn't exist. And it is only getting worse, so you have to learn to deal with it. All life is awareness, more so than consciousness. Consciousness is something created in the creation bubble. It is not the ultimate at all, but they've made you think that it is, but it actually is not. There's so much more that is unseen that is real. And that's the best part, but you've got to learn to see it. And that's huge. That's the real challenge, to be the real risk taker. Will you go with your created self and your created life, or will you be able to stand aside from it and see more and learn to be objective with what you've gone through? Because all the experience that you've gained is very vital for you to totally wake up, but you must learn to see it objectively so you can compare it as what is not real with what is real as you learn to see what is real. So just like the US government, you know, we've all been raised with the White House and the flag and all these things. It's all cute stuff, isn't it? It's all marketing ploy from the controllers. That's really what it is. It all sounds really good. They really market it as good. And we grew up with this. Oh, I'm an American. I'm all this and that, which is fine. It's like whatever. But now you're seeing through that, aren't you? Like the air you breathe. You can't see it, but you do see it, don't you? And there's a lot more to see, but you decide how far you want to go and how much you want to see, because it becomes more and more real that it really seems to scare people, because it seems to conflict with their personal life. And they're thinking that, oh, gee, I'm going to lose my personal life. No, you're just going to simply add to, and you're going to see what's really going on. So you're no longer subject to, and eventually you can become self-sufficient like the sun shining. You decide how far you want to go. So there's a little bit of what I share to others, and it's for you.
Thanks, Duane. That's wonderful.
When you start to see these things, it's very subtle. And yes, that you know, you can be watching a movie, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, this movie is like what is really going on? And it's like, well, that's weird. But you see, what you're seeing is it is making sense, and it's right in front of you. So as you learn to make sense of things, instead of just relying on your old routines of literalized thinking, you actually become more aware. That's a step also. So you've got your literalized upbringing, and then when things start to make sense, you're thinking that, oh, gee, I had this weird dream, I had this whatever, use the word weird or whatever. It's not weird. Life makes sense. All life makes sense. If you have to make sense of it, or you just keep looking through these ideas that you've accepted as your reality. And so you learn to move your viewpoint around too, and learn to see things how other people see it, not just yourself. Just imagine, how do the birds see something? How does that next fellow see something? How do they see it? Not just how you see it, how you think. Move your view around, because that view is your real awareness operating those 5 bodies. It's very simple. But you really can't see it because you're invisible, like the air.